You, Mr. McCormick, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the guests for coming here to witness to us today. I appreciate you very much. Mr. Mazzol, what is the department's vision for modernizing its test and evaluation architecture?
Sir, I would actually prefer to defer that question to Mr. Rumford as the head of TRS.
I don't want to talk. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the question. And so we have a lot of, the major approach to strategizing on improving the test infrastructure is really understanding the national defense strategy and where the department is focusing on defending our nation. So we look at those major areas that we want to go after as a department, and then we turn around and look at the capabilities that we have existing within our infrastructure, and then where we find gaps, that is where we find partnerships with other federal agencies, and more importantly, the industry and academia, on how do we get after understanding how we can understand if something works. Because that's what testing is,
sure.
Understanding if something works.
And you mentioned testing, that's a good point. So right now we're in essentially a proxy war. We're having real live fire exercises, seeing what's working and what's not working. We're seeing jamming on navigation systems. We've seen triangular counterfire, which we had before, but now it's been honed to the point where 155, which we're all worried about running out of ammunition, now is almost ineffective because we're worried about the counterfires, right? So everything's changing rapidly. How do we test and evaluate something that hasn't even been used on the battlefield yet? How are we working and integrating with vendors and accelerating this process of getting to the next generation of accelerating the kill chain?
So what you've just highlighted in your question is the thing that we know is going to be there is change. I mean, the thing that's constant will be change. So we know that there's going to be differences. So one of the things that we introduce into our test infrastructure is how agile are our systems into responding to a very, very changing dynamic environment, because we know that there's going to be rapid evolution. And recognizing existing geopolitical conflicts that are occurring in the world, that gets back to my comment of we're interested in data, and data comes from many, many sources. And sometimes it comes from operational activities that we can learn a lot of value from and factor that back into our design and test.
So you think the data and software-centric technologies are really realizing that vision right now? You think we're able to accelerate that process of what we're purchasing, what we're investing in year by year rather than decade by decade, which has been our tradition, right? The legacy systems that take a decade of R&D, a decade of incorporation, a decade of sustainment. And by the way, now I get to retire as a CEO of that 30-year period.
So there's always, I mean, there are pockets of success that we can point to that we have made great strides with. Some of the things that we're working with across the R&E enterprise, we're in DIU, we're very rapidly trying to deliver capability to the warfighter, so we can show examples of where good successes occurred, where we've learned, iterated, and delivered in a very rapid fashion. But as you just highlighted, that is not the current culture across the department. And we have to change that culture because, quite frankly, if we don't iterate, we won't be successful.
Thank you. Mr. Beck, you talked about DIU extensively in your opening remarks. Appreciate that. What's the challenges in transitioning programs from the DIU over to the military services right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the biggest difference between what DIU is doing in DIU 2.0 and what DIU is now doing in DIU 3.0 is all about that pathway to scale. So DIU always had we called a transition partner as part of the criteria for deciding to go do something. We've changed that to there must be a pathway to scale, and that fundamentally is about the partnership of the services. So I mentioned some of the concrete tools that we have in place, for example, the flexible funding, but perhaps even more important is the fact that now that I have the ability to be sitting at the table to then go sit down with the leadership of each of the services, which literally we're doing this right now, to sit down with our 2x2 matrix of here are the most strategic projects, here's where we're uniquely positioned to help, this is our list of what we're doing for the Army, General George. Let's sit down and agree, is this the right set of stuff? And if so, does that mean that you're going to put the pieces in place to be able to scale it?
So I got about 15 seconds, and that's what I was going to ask you. In this contracting management, is this cutting down on duplicative contracting systems so that we're not reproducing the same thing in parallel lanes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that back to Mr. Mazel's point from before, the more that we can coordinate and collaborate, the more that that's going to be true.
Appreciate you. Thank you. With that, I yield.